नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनित्य नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. We have been discussing from the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Hopefully Krishna willing we may complete 4th chapter today. Let's see, depending on the questions and discussions that come up. So we are discussing from the 4th chapter. I'll do a very quick recap. The 3rd chapter ended with Krishna discussing about Nishkama Karma Yoga and how lust or material desires act as an obstacle to performing Nishkama Karma Yoga. Then the 4th chapter started with Krishna speaking about uh, how this teachings of Nishkama Karma Yoga was distributed in parampara through the kings. Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavanaham Abhyayam. And then he says that, but over a period of time, this knowledge was lost. Sakalene Hamahata Yogo Nashta Parantapa. And then he says that Sayevayam Maya Tedya Yoga Prokta Puratanaha Bhaktosi Me Sakacheti Rahasyam Hyetaduttamam. Because you are my friend and devotee, I am distributing that knowledge to you, so that through you, this knowledge can continue getting disseminated from generation after generation. And then Arjuna at this point asks about, with a desire to bow from Krishna's own mouth, the confidential nature of Krishna's birth and activities. He asked this question: Aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvatah katametad vijaniyam to madhav proktavaniti. Oh my dear Krishna, you and me, both of us appeared much after Vivaswan appeared. So how am I to understand that you distributed this knowledge to Vivaswan? So Krishna, in response to this, he says, Bahuni me vyati. He, in the next few verses, he speaks about his Janma Rahasya and Karma Rahasya. Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjana. Tanyaham veda sarvani natvam veta parantapa. Many births you and I have passed, O Arjuna. I remember all of them, but you don't remember any. Because Yogamaya covers it for the purpose of pastimes. Ajopi san navyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san swamadishtaya sambhavami atmamaya. So where he talks about the various difference between the nature of birth of ordinary living entities and Krishna. And then he says why he appears or when he appears. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. And what does he do? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So in this way, he talks about the very secret, confidential nature of his birth and activities. And then he says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tatvatah tyakva deham punarjanma naiti mameti. So Arjuna. So Arjuna, one who understands the transcendental nature of my birth and activities, upon giving up this body, shall never take birth again, and he will attain me. Then he says, but what are the symptoms of a person who has understood in truth the confidential nature of Krishna's birth and activities? He says, Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mam upashrita bahavo gyan tapasaputa madbhavamat. Like that, he is free of raga, dvesha, raga, bhaya and krodha, and he is completely dedicated to meditating on Krishna, and he has taken full shelter of Krishna. And in this way he attained the nature of Krishna. So then Krishna says, so this is how Krishna, but not everyone may understand the transcendental nature of Krishna's birth and activities. How does Krishna reciprocate with those who understand the transcendental nature of Krishna's birth and activities, and those who don't? But those who do understand but do not aspire for establishing a relationship with Krishna. How does Krishna reciprocate with all of them? Krishna says, Yeya tamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamiham mama vartmano vartante manushya partha sarvashah. So he says that if they accept the transcendental nature of my birth and activities, whatever they want, I give it to them. I reciprocate. But if they don't accept, then I do not reciprocate, because someone who is a material man, who is an ordinary person, he cannot reciprocate with all the transcendental requests of his devotees. So Krishna, in this way, he says that he reciprocates according to the way they surrender. On the other hand, even though Krishna can give everything, Kangshatah karmanam siddhim yajanta ihadevata shipram hi manushe loke bhavati karmaja. So he says that, but people, even though Krishna can give transcendental results, but people aspire after material results, because material results one get very easily, very quickly, but transcendental results take much longer time. So therefore, people being very impatient and for that willing to compromise an eternal goal for a temporary goal, people aspire for this temporary material goals, and generally such people are inclined to worship the demigods. Kangshatah karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devata shipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. And then Krishna says that for all these kinds of people who have multiple desires, I have created this varnashram system. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam gunakarma vibhagashah tasya kartaram apimam vidya kartaram avyayam. I have created this system of varnashrama, where people who have material desires can accept this varnashram system, and through this varnashram system they can perform occupational duties according to their nature, and in this way they can worship me and get all their material desires fulfilled. And once their material desires get fulfilled, gradually they can progress to come to the level of Nishkama Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and then achieve liberation. In this way, I have created the Varnashram system for everyone. So even though, I have created a system where material desires can also be fulfilled, but Krishna says, Nama karmani limpanti name karma phale spriha itimamyo abhijanati karmabir nasabadhyate. Oh, my dear Arjuna, you should understand that, because I do not desire for enjoying any of the fruits of my actions, none of my actions give rise to any karma which I have to, in order to experience which I have to take birth again, right? And one who understands this nature of mind, he also shall not take birth again, right? So therefore, Krishna says, Evam gyatva kritam karma purvairapi mumukshubhihi kuru karmaiva tasmatvam purvai purvataram kritam. So Arjuna, all of ancestors, glorious ancestors, they understood this principle actually of detached work. So they perform their activities but did not desire to enjoy the fruits of those activities, and therefore they all attained liberation. I am requesting you, Arjuna, just follow your glorious predecessors, and in their footsteps you can also achieve the same. But in trying to follow Nishkama Karma Yoga, it is actually not very easy. Kim karma kim akarmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshyami yajnatva mokshasya ashubhat. So he says that kim karma kim akarmeti. So this concept of karma, akarma, vikarma is very difficult to understand. Why? So what is karma? Karma means prescribed duties. Vikarma means prohibited actions. And akarma means where one stops performing the occupational duties and varna dharma and takes up to sannyas. So why these three subject matter is very difficult to understand? For two reasons. One reason is people do not understand that there are different adhikars. Lokesmin vividhanishta pura prokta mayanaga jnana yogena sankyanam karma yogena yoginam, Krishna has told. There are multiple categories of people with multiple adhikaras. So people do not understand that that sannyas is a choice. Sannyas is not a choice. sannyas needs particular qualification. So people, uh, they think that they don't understand this concept of adhikara. Therefore, they that is one reasons why they find it very difficult to understand the subject matter. And the second reason is that even if they understand adhikara, that they are qualified for karma adhikar, but still they don't understand that this concept of prescribed duties and prohibited duties is highly subjective according to karma. There are no activities which are universally prescribed or universally prohibited. So it varies from person to person, adhikar to adhikar. So because people do not understand this concept properly, therefore it's very confusing. Therefore, कर्मणो हि अपि बोद्धव्यं च विकर्मणः अकर्मणश्च बोद्धव्यं गहना कर्मणो गतिः. Therefore, one should understand the nature of this karma, akarma, and vikarma, because these subject matter is very, very difficult to understand. Krishna says. Then he says, "Karmani akarma yah pashyet, akarmani cha karma yah buddhiman manusyeshu sayuktah kritsna karma krite." He says that intelligent person is he who is trained to see action in inaction and inaction in action. What is action in inaction? Inaction here means sannyas. How he can very clearly see how when an unqualified person takes up to sannyas, and when he gives up all the varnashram prescribed duties, he knows that even though he is not performing any action, he will be getting all kinds of impious reactions, because without sufficient purification of heart, he has prematurely up to sannyas. So this is seeing action in inaction. What is seeing inaction in action? It is when a qualified Nishkama Karma Yogi, when a qualified Grihastha performs his Varnashrama duties with complete detachment from any material desires, then even though he is performing lot of actions, he does not get any reaction for that. So this is seeing inaction in action. So one who has learned to see action in inaction and inaction is action in action, he is the one who has perfectly understood this path of Nishkama Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And then he describes about this whole, how such a Nishkama Karma Yogi, when he is completely detached from the desire to enjoy the fruits of his actions, it is mentioned, Yasya sarve samarambhan kama sankalpa varjitah jnanagni dagda karmanam tamahuhu panditam buddha. So he says that Yasya sarve samarambhan, one who is performing all kinds of Yasya sarve samarambhan kama sankalpa varjitah. All of his actions are free from the desire to enjoy material results. Okay. Jnanagni dagda karmanam. And such a person, even though on such a person, the fire of knowledge that comes from this detached work burns away all the karma. So therefore, such a person, even though he is doing all kinds of activities, he does not get any result. He does not accumulate any reaction. Tyakva karma phalasangam nityatupto nirashrayah karmani abhipravritto kinchit karoti sah. Same meaning. Because he has given up detachment from all the fruits of the activities, he is very, very satisfied, and he is not dependent on anyone else. So therefore, even though he is engaged in all kinds of occupational duties, he does not get any reaction for that. Nirashir yatha chittatma tyakta sarva parigrahah shariram kevalam karma kurvan napnoti kelbisham. Such a person who has completely controlled his mind and senses and given up all kinds of possessiveness, and he performs action only for maintaining his body and soul, that such a person, he does not accumulate any reactions even though he is performing actions. Yadichalabha santushto dvandatito vimatsarah samassiddha vasiddhau cha kritvapi na nibadyate. Such a person is always happy. This perfected Nishkama Karma Yogi is always happy with whatever comes of its own accord. He is free from the dualities of life, and he is free from envy when he sees other people materially growing, because he has no material ambitions. When he sees other people materially growing, that does not create any envy in him. Nitya tripto, dvandvatito vimatsarah samasiddhau siddhau cha kritvapi na nibadyate. and equipoised in you know siddhav asiddhav, in success and in failure. So such a person, even though he may be acting in his occupational duties, he does not get any reaction for that. Gata sangasya muktasya jnanavasmita chetasah yajnaya charita karma samagram praviliyate. It is mentioned that such a person who is unattached to enjoyment and completely is considered to be almost in the liberated state, and who has perfectly attained the knowledge, because he is performing all those actions for the purpose of yajna, it eventually culminates in jnana. Okay. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. And because a Nishkama Karma Yogi acts with the goal of liberation in his mind, therefore, whatever yajna that whatever may be the external type of yajna that he is performing, that which is offered as oblation, the apparatus that is used for offering the oblations, like the ladle and the fire which consumes all those oblations, the person who is performing is who is offering those oblations, all of them, they take a spiritual nature, because the goal of the person who is performing those sacrifices is Brahma Karma Samadhina. This is the same as Prabhupada gives the example of when when a when a person utilizes material objects in the service of Krishna, then those objects which are utilized in the service of Krishna take up, they are spiritualized. So similarly here for a Nishkama Karma Yogi, with the goal of liberation, when he uses apparently material objects like ghee, ladle, fire, etc., in the sacrifice which has been prescribed in the Shastras according to his Varna and Ashrama, when he performs those sacrifices, naturally all those objects, though material, have the potential to bind a person to this material world. Those same objects will act as the means to liberate him from this material world, because he is utilizing them in performing prescribed sacrifices for the purpose of attaining liberation. Right? And then in the next many verses, he talks about many different types of yajna, which are actually externally they may differ in form, but when those yajnas are performed in the mood of Brahma Karma Samadhina, in the mood of ultimately attaining liberation, then those yajnas do not, they actually eventually liberate him from this material world. So this is verse number 25 to verse number verse number 29, 25 to 29. And then in the 30th verse, Krishna says, Sarve pyete yajna vido yajna kshapita kalmashaha yajna shishtamrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam. All these people who understand the importance of performing yajnas and the mood of performing this yajnas, Sarve pyete yajna vido yajna kshapita kalmashaha. So, being cleansed of all kinds of impurities, they accept the results of those sacrifice and then eventually attain liberation. Nayam lokosti ayagyasya kutonya kuru sattama. But if one neglects to perform any of these yajnas, then he cannot attain any result in this lifetime, what to speak of next life. Evam bahuvida yajna vitatam brahmano mukhe karmajan vidditan sarvan evam gyatva vimokshase. So even though there are so many of these yajnas which are described, many different types of yajnas which externally differ in their form, the Shastras talk about, when they understand that all of that is born out of their prescribed duties, and all of them are capable of bestowing liberation, when they understand this ultimate thread, which the common thread which goes through all these yajnas, when they understand this, they attain liberation. Then Shreyan Dravyamayad Yajna Jnana Yajna Parantapa Sarvam karmakilam partha jnane parisamapyate. So then he says that there are, O Arjuna, if you had noticed, one or two of these yagyas that I had mentioned to you did not have a transcendental goal. They were doing it for some material pleasures. So better than these kind of yagyas are those yagyas which are performed with a transcendental goal in mind. That is the meaning of jnana yagya. Shreyan Dravyamaya Yagyat Jnana Yagya Parantapa Sarvam Karmakilam Partha Jnane Parisamapyate. And all these various kinds of karma ultimately culminate in jnana when done with detachment. Okay. And then Krishna says, Tadvidi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadekshanti Te Jnanam Jnaninas Tattvadarshina. He says, how does one achieve this jnana? How does one achieve this jnana? He says, one can achieve this jnana by surrendering to a guru. One should surrender to a guru, pranipatena, and then one should ask proper questions to understand the subject matter clearly from the guru, and one should serve also in return. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam. So they will teach you all this knowledge because they are tattvadarshina, they are the knowers of truth. So they because they know the truth, they will bestow all that knowledge upon you. So then Krishna says, then Krishna describes the glories of that knowledge that one may attain by approaching a guru and also by performing the Nishkama Karma Yoga and attaining that knowledge. So he says, Yadgyatva punarmoham yevam yasyasi pandava yena bhutan yasheshena drakshasi atmani atomai. So he says that, oh Arjuna, that understanding this knowledge, you will no longer be bewildered. There is no more bewilderment. And when bewilderment is completely eradicated, you will be able to see how all the living entities are individual atmas and are situated in me, which means they are all dependent on me. And then he says, Apichetasi papebhya sarvebhya papakrittamah sarvam jnana plavena iva brijinam santarishyasi. He says, oh Arjuna, even if one may be the greatest of the great sinners, if he takes this bit of knowledge, he can easily cross over this samsara. So here, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, actually, to be completely free of any kind of, what to speak of sinful desires, but even material attachments or material desires, is the basic qualification even to come to the level of jnana. So how is it that such a person will have material desires or sinful desires? So here Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, oh, here it means that this is true, that such a person will not have any sinful desire. But even if one may have a hypothetical situation, then this jnana is powerful enough to destroy those sinful reactions or sinful desire. So that is the meaning one should understand. Otherwise, to practice jnana, the minimum prerequisite is the heart has to be purified of all kinds of material desires. Etedamsi samiddhognir basmasat kurte Arjuna, jnanagni sarvakarmani basmasat kurte tata. He says, just as a blazing fire burns to ashes all the fuel wood, similarly, the fire of knowledge turns all actions to ashes. So he says, for a Nishkama Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, Ashtanga Yogi, Prarabdha Karma is destroyed only by giving up the body. Okay. But for a devotee, Prarabdha Karma is destroyed even much before. Nahi Jnanena Sadrisham Pavitram Iha Vidyate Tatsvayam Yoga Samsiddha Kalenatmani Vindati. So he says that Iha, in this world, Nahi Jnanena Sadrisham Pavitram Vidyate. There is nothing pure as this knowledge. Kalena, gradually in the course of time, Tat Swayam Atmani Vindati. This knowledge will, after some time, it is attained of itself from within through practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga. When Nishkama Karma Yoga is practiced, Yoga Samsiddha, when Nishkama Karma Yoga is perfected, due to perfection of Nishkama Karma Yoga, automatically one attains this knowledge, this platform of knowledge, like that. So this is where we ended our discussion last week. So before we start today's discussion, if there are any quick discussion points, comments, questions based on what we have seen till now and summarized today, if you have anything, we can go ahead. Anything anyone would like to share, ask, add? Okay, if there is none, then we will continue our discussion. Okay, so then, yeah, okay. In the next verse, Krishna says, Shraddhavan labate jnanam tatpara sanyatendriyah jnanam ladva param shantim achirena digacchati. He says, Shraddhavan, having faith in the scripture, tatparaha. Tat here refers to that. That means Nishkama Karma Yoga. Okay. And Paraha means dedicated. Okay. So Shraddhavan, one who has faith in scripture. So here scripture means Dharma Shastras. Okay. So one who has faith in the Dharma Shastras and who is completely dedicated to performance of Nishkama Karma Yoga, Shraddhavan is the first criteria. Tatparaha is the second criteria. Samyatendriyaha. Yatendriyaha means to control the senses. Samyatendriya means samyak rupena yatendriya. Completely controlled senses. If one is Shraddhavan, Tatparaha, and Samyatendriyaha, then Labate Jnanam, he attains knowledge. Right? Having faith in scripture, being fixed in the practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga, and finally attaining control of the senses. So when by practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga, when he gains full sense control, at that time, Labate Jnanam, he becomes qualified for practicing Jnana. Jnanam Labdva Param Shantim Achirena Adigachati. Attaining that knowledge, one quickly attains freedom from samsara. Okay. So that's what he says. So Nishkama Karma Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga is performed with Shraddha. Okay. Then it leads to controlled senses. So when he reaches controlled, the qualification of controlled senses, then he attains knowledge, jnana. When he reaches the stage of jnana, then there is liberation is quickly at. Okay, this is the point. So Nishkama Karma Yoga is Tatparaha. Shraddha is Shraddhavan. Shraddhavan labate jnanam tatpara sanyatendriya jnanam labdva param shantim achirena digacchati. Okay, like that. So in the previous verse we mentioned Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalena atmani vindati. He says after some time knowledge is attained through practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga. So when, at what stage does Nishkama Karma Yoga mature to Jnana or Jnana Yoga? At what stage? How does we know that at this stage Nishkama Karma Yoga can has matured into the stage of Jnana? So he says when one develops Samyatendriya, complete controlled senses. So then when the senses are completely controlled, then one should understand that one has become qualified jnana. And when one he reaches the stage of jnana, then liberation is attained very quickly. So how and when does this happen? Having faith in the meaning of the scriptures that knowledge will arise by purity of heart through practice of Nishkama Karma, and being fixed in the execution of the Nishkama Karma Yoga, and finally attaining controlled senses, a person will attain knowledge of Atma. This is the point. So having faith in the meaning of the scriptures, the knowledge will arise by purity of heart through practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga. So this is Shraddhavan. So only Shraddha is not sufficient. That should manifest into action. He should actually start performing Nishkama Karma Yoga. This is Tatparaha. Then Shraddhavan plus Tatparaha leads to Samyatendriyaha. Okay. So complete control of senses. So Samyatendriya means he has attained the stage of Jnana. Okay. And then Jnana will eventually lead to liberation. Then he will attain destruction of samsara, param shanti, which is liberation. Any quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share? Okay, there is a question about in the chat box. What does it mean to attain knowledge of soul? Knowledge of soul means self-realization. Realizing that one is not the body, but one is the soul. That is knowledge of the soul. Of course, there may be much more details to it, but in general, this is the knowledge of the soul. Anything else anyone would like to share as hand? Okay. Next verse. On one hand, Shraddhavan and Tatparaha. One who has faith in the Dharma Shastras and one who is completely dedicated to practicing Nishkama Karma Yoga will attain control the senses and eventually attain Jnana and then liberation. On the other hand, Agnyascha, Ashraddhadanascha, Samshayatma Vinashyati, Nayam Lokosti Naparo, Nasukam Samshayatmanaha. He says, on the other hand, if one is an Agya is a person who is front of scriptures, or Ashraddhadana. Ashraddhadana means one who knows the scripture but he does not have faith. Like for example, I often give the example of my aunt. One of my aunts, she is like very well read. She is double MA in Sanskrit and MA in philosophy. So she studied in her philosophy Vishishtadvaita Vedanta, and of course Mayavad also she has studied. So she can quote the Sanskrit verses written by Ramanujacharya refuting Mayavad and establishing the supremacy of Lord Narayana and all these things. Okay. So, and the supremacy of Narayana and everything she knows. But when it comes to worship, she worships Sai Baba, Ganesh, like that. She regularly visits Ganesh temple. So anything, any problem, she'll be chanting Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, like that. So this is despite knowing the philosophy very nicely. So there is a difference between knowing and having faith. Like for example, how many of you in your you have differential calculus and integral calculus in your school or college, but never really figured out a utility for that till now? Anyone who falls within that category? You have studied integral calculus, differential calculus, but till now still not exactly figured out what exactly do I use it for, so like that. So like that we study so many things which we in one sense we know it, d by dx of sin x is cos x, d by dx of cos x is minus sin x, whatever. So all these things we know, but what is the utility of this? And most of us may not bother to know. So similarly, people study Bhagavad Gita also in that sense. So this is the second category. They have some knowledge, but they don't think that this knowledge has any utility. Agnyascha, Ashraddhadanascha, and the third category is Samshayatma. So this Samshayatma is the dangerous category. So the Samshayatma is a cynical insider. If you want to take the example of a devotee, he has become a devotee, he has faith process somewhat, and he is practicing, but because of improper application of the devotional principles, or because of unfavorable experiences in the association of devotees, he does not have he sort of his faith has become very weak. Like if you see, even in our own society, you might have heard people telling that, we say लोग बोलेंगे कि अरे हरिनाम से सब होता है बोल के बोलते हैं, वैसा कुछ नहीं है, हरिनाम से सब कुछ थोड़ी होता है. ठीक है, कृष्ण प्रेम के लिए हो जाता है, but if we get some other problem, they say that bhakti alone is not sufficient. No, even though, yeah, we do hear about it, but does it really happen? Those kind of doubts. Whether in this lifetime, is it, Prabhupada said that in one lifetime you can go back. But somehow I feel that even in many, many lifetimes, I don't see any hope. Or, people may really have doubts trusting fellow Vaishnavas also. So, in one sense, a samshayatma, samshaya means doubt, actually. So, samshaya means doubt, and doubt is a sign of intelligence. Okay. Samshayota viparyaso, swa, like that 5-6 symptoms of intelligence are given by Kapila Dev in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Samshaya is definitely a sign of doubt. But samshayatma means not just doubt, but he has become a doubting soul. He has become cynical. Cynicism means actually, practically, when someone says anything, he cannot trust. He has serious trust issues because of unfavorable experiences. And such people are the most, in one sense, like unfortunate people, because they have heard sufficiently about the problem with material enjoyment, so they can enjoy material enjoyment also without any guilt. And at the same time, because of doubts, because of their bad experience, their trust levels have gone so low that they cannot be happy practicing Krishna consciousness also. So therefore, these are very terrible suffering souls actually. And such people actually, in one sense, become very bad in a preaching movement actually. They actually, when people come in touch with them, they get demotivated in their Krishna consciousness also. So therefore, in one sense, and we become the cause. So if a society is if a society or a small community, if in a community many samshayatmas are getting generated, then it could be a sign of troubled leadership, probably. If there are many or very poor community values, either bad leadership or very poor community values, that in a society people feel, constantly feel insecure, they have trust issues, they cannot trust people, they cannot trust leaders. So in such a community, if a community is generating more and more samshayatmas, then it is very, very unfortunate actually. For the movement, it is the most unfortunate thing. So Krishna says there are these 3 categories of people. While a person who has faith, Shraddhavan labate jnanam, whereas Ajñascha Ashraddhadanascha Samshayatma. So the 3 kinds of people who have faith problems. Okay. And Ajna is one who has not studied scriptures. So he has not studied scriptures, so he does not know anything about Nishkama Karma Yoga in this context. Okay. And Ashraddhadana is one studied, but he has no faith in it. Like many people, they sort of, as a part of their curriculum, they read Bhagavad Gita, but they can quote the verses, but they don't see any practical value in it. Third category are the cynical insiders, Samshayatma. So, and this person, he says, Vinashyati. Because cynicism will lead to offenses generally, and offenses will uproot devotion. Okay. And cynicism can also proliferate offenses to others. Okay. So therefore, if a society is generating many cynical insiders, then it is actually alarm bell, you know. So then we have to see what is wrong. There is something wrong with the community values and leadership. Very likely, very likely. So, one, of course, the individual has to take responsibility. So from the individual side, he should understand, am I becoming cynical? Then the alarm bell should ring. Okay. And he should take personal responsibility. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But if uh, uh, but if many such people are becoming like that, then the leadership should certainly take note and try to fix the problem, then push the blame on the individual. Like I remember once I was talking with one devotee, and he was asking me, hey, do you know this devotee, this particular devotee? I said, yes, Prabhu. Initially in the early days, I came in touch with their group, and many of my friends got introduced there. So then he asked, oh, then what happened? I said, about 12 to 14 of my friends, they got introduced to this group. And then I told Prabhuji, but their practice was very intense. They used to wake up 2:30 in the morning every day, complete their japa before 5 o'clock, and then they would hear lectures. And it was very intense program. And then yes, then what happened? Then I said, Prabhuji, out of 13, 14, I think practically none of them are practicing Krishna consciousness also now. Most of them, almost everyone has left. So the response of this person was, oh, they all must have become offenders. That's why they have given up bhakti. Then I told Prabhuji, I agree. I agree that must have been the case. I am not denying the fact. But I think there is a deeper problem. I said, then why is the system generating so many offenders? Right? One person became an offender. Okay, his problem. Two persons, his problem. Three persons, okay, their problem. If 13, 14 out of, if practically almost 90 to 100% of the people are becoming offenders and leaving the system, then how can it be individual responsibility alone? There must be some systemic issues. So that has to be addressed. So this problem of samshayatmas in a society, especially a devotional society, is a very strong area of concern which has to be very carefully addressed. If one by one, more and more people are becoming samshayatmas, then the leaders should immediately take note and has to address this problem actually. So yeah. So That's what he says. Agnyascha ashraddhadanascha samshayatma vinashyati. So Krishna says, even though these three categories of people are there, but the samshayatma, he perishes because he loses faith. He does not have faith in the material world or in the material pursuits, and he does not have faith. Now he is losing faith in the association of devotees also. And samshayatmanaha, one who is afflicted with this kind of doubt, na ayam loko asti, he will attain nothing in this life. Na paro, he will attain nothing in the next life. Na sukham, and no happiness. This is the problem. And if many people fall within this category, out of this 13-14 people who are connected to this particular group, all of them gave up Krishna consciousness. Two of them took up to Sri Vaishnavism. Few of them became utter atheists. Okay, and quite a few of them had relationship issues with their spouses and family. Many are under sort of psychological help, psychological treatment still many years after this also. So then you will say everyone is an offender. Everyone is an offender, and they should take personal responsibility. Well, that is a very, of course, they should take personal responsibility also, but I said that systemic faults have to be corrected. And one of the key symptoms of systemic faults in a particular system, especially a devotional community, is if there is an alarming number of cynical insiders. That is a very big question mark. If that probably there are some systemic issues here. Anyways, so Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says here that having spoken of the person who was qualified with knowledge, so Shraddha was the qualification for knowledge, Shraddhavan. And if somehow this faith is affected, then it leads to no knowledge. No knowledge in this case, and in the case of a devotional society, it does not lead to perfection of bhakti. Rather, one may start losing bhakti. So therefore he says, having spoken of the person who was qualified with knowledge, in this verse Krishna speaks of the person without qualification for knowledge. That person perishes who is ignorant like an animal, or who, even though knowing the scriptures, does not believe in anything. Why? Because of seeing the arguments between various factions, ashraddhadana. So therefore he says that the second category, why they don't have faith, because he says, well, Bhagavad Gita मुझे पता है, but रामानुजाचार्य कुछ बोलते हैं, शंकराचार्य कुछ और बोलते हैं, मध्वाचार्य और कुछ बोलते हैं. तो ठीक है, हमारा इसके लिए मतलब एग्जाम के लिए जितना पढ़ना है उतना पढ़ लेंगे बस. So this is ashraddhadana, knows but has no faith. And the third category is who, though even having faith, is afflicted with doubt whether he can attain the goal. Among these persons, ignorant, faithless, and doubting, the doubting one is especially criticized in the last line because his situation is very pathetic actually. Any discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share? Oh, okay. Many hands up. Okay. I think probably this verse would set a record for maximum number of questions. Okay. Yes, Sachi Prabhu. Prabhu, are you traveling?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm traveling. Is it?
Your voice is breaking. Yeah, can you type your question in the chat box?
Yes, Prabhuji, I will type.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Shamli Mataji.
I didn't understand the last.
Mataji, your voice is also breaking. Is that problem with my phone, my internet, or yours? Your voice is also breaking.
It's still breaking.
Uh,
Is it better now?
I don't know. Can others hear her voice properly? I am not able to hear. Is her voice clear to others? My voice is clear, but is Shamli Mataji's voice clear to others?
I'll type too, Prabhuji. No problem. I'll type.
Yeah, Mataji, they're telling that your voice is not clear to them. You can also
Yeah,
type,
I'll
please.
type.
I think. Yeah. Vahini Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Am I
ma'am.
audible? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is very interesting perspective that Prabhuji, you brought about this um, the last one,
Mhm.
Sanchayatma.
Correct.
So one doubt that I had, like inquisitive or jigyasu being, asking questions is actually encouraged. But then
Yeah.
there's this flip side that, they are always doubting. So doubting everything can be, considered cynical, right? Is that right understanding? That
No, cynical means, see, there is a difference between being inquisitive and cynical. Being inquisitive is a function of intelligence.
okay.
Being cynical is a sign of filled faith due to bad experience. So there is a difference between the kind of questions that they may ask, the inquisitive person asks. The inquisitive person wants to know, whereas the cynical person, he is fearful. So there is a difference between fear and jigyasa. So the jigyasa means a desire to learn, a desire to know, whereas cynicism is not that. Cynicism is actually severe doubt due to bad experience, actually.
Right. And I remembered, I remembered, I heard Mahatma Prabhu's lecture, and where he said that this trust issues can definitely be, some childhood growing up issues with a person. And
Quite
as you
possible.
said, yeah, like, personal, it can be on a personal level that I don't trust anybody because, I had some bad experience in my childhood, because of
Correct.
which I failed to trust people. So
Yes.
it can be one angle. The other
Correct.
angle that you brought is about the leadership. Then certain times it's difficult to distinguish, right? Because people in Kali Yuga are fighting both, the leadership as well as the childhood baggage. So it's sometimes the boundaries are so blurred.
Fuzzy.
Yeah, because you can't make out what is it that, and that healing is required definitely on both levels.
Exactly. I agree with this point. So that is why, of course, so that is why in when I presented certain, to an extent, statistics can also show something. I mean, if like, for example, the statistics that I gave, like where it was like a significantly high number of people becoming cynical insiders and eventually giving up Krishna consciousness, that probably has a systemic effect. The systemic cause is more. But having said that, I have also seen people in my own personal life, devotees, having serious trust issues because of troubled childhood, and I have tried to understand them by investing time with them, and they have revealed their hearts. And one of my own roommates when I was in the United States, he had such serious troubled childhood. Their parents used to physically abuse him, and psychologically abuse him by by sort of uh, uh, criticizing him and like that. So he had, when he came to Krishna consciousness, he has serious trust issues with mm, so like that. So I totally agree with this point that childhood growing up can also have a serious effect on one becoming a Samshayatma. I agree with this point.
True. Yeah. That's all I think.
Thank you. Okay, the last point was not clear. Which kind of doubters is most pathetic? The Samshayatma, the cynical insider, the one who has doubt but is slowly losing it. That person is the most pathetic. Shamlal Prabhu?
Yes. Am I audible, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu, you are audible.
Firstly, I just wanted to make it clear why the Samshatma is the worst. I mean, of the three, why Samshatma is always the what do you say, the
Worse.
worst. Second,
Mhm.
how do you identify? There may be Samshatmas in our society,
Hmm.
and how do we identify and how do we rectify?
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. So three questions you have asked. First thing, why Samshayatma is the worst? Because the other two, Agnya and Ashraddadana, they at least have trust in material enjoyment and they can at least enjoy matter. So, and they can subsequently take up to Krishna conscious favorably because they don't have unfavorable doubts which are stunting their process. They just that they don't have faith. They don't have the seed of devotion. They don't have sufficient sukriti. Therefore, in future when they get sukriti, they may become devotees. But the Samshayatma, they have developed the sukriti, developed faith, but has lost trust in the process, probably due to some level of experience, treatment, immaturity, and things like that. So, and because they have received the seed of devotion, they have lost faith in material enjoyment also. And at the same time, they are, because of their serious doubts, they are not able to enjoy Krishna consciousness also. So, this situation might potentially push them in the direction of impersonalism actually. So, therefore, they are most unfortunate in this case. Samshayatma. Is the answer to your first question? Is that relevant, bro?
So in that case, Prabhuji,
Hmm.
I mean, if it is, correlating it with Vahini Mataji's statement,
Mhm.
the causes could be only two. One is bad experiences prior to coming into Krishna consciousness movement, and
Yeah,
bad experiences related to during your process in Krishna consciousness movement.
correct. Yeah,
So, I mean, then it is more like a systemic problem only then.
yeah. Uh,
That
hmm.
means that we are saying that there's a problem in the system itself.
So these are two reasons. The third cause also could be individual irresponsible practice of devotional service offenses. These also make people samshayatma. So that I will not strip the individual responsibility completely from someone becoming samshayatma. Definitely that cause is 100% there. But having said that, there are strong cases of systemic causes also that could be the reason for someone becoming samshayatma. So, but individual reasons are also there. Irresponsible practice of devotional service, inattentive practice of devotional service, offenses. These could be individual reasons for one to become samshayatma also. Is that
Okay.
is that okay, bro?
Something very much that we all need to ponder about, I feel.
Yeah.
And of course, how do we identify one and how do we correct or how do we improvise or correct those who are.
Okay. Yeah. So how do we identify? So we can identify only if we are willing to spend time with the person and slowly at their own pace, allow them to open up their heart and share their problem. And if it is um, a personal cause of inattentive practice or um, for or irresponsible practice of devotional service or offenses, then slowly guide them and help them overcome that problem. And if a systemic cause is identified, like for example, uh, you know, uh, some kind of leadership issues, then we may even try to, I mean, if we are ourselves at the leadership position, then we may try to do some, uh, brainstorming and try to see where we can improve. We ourselves can get trained in good leadership principles. But or if we are not at leadership level, then we can at least see if that devotee can be helped out to a different system where at least some trustworthy, he may feel little bit more comfortable with those leaders. Something can be arranged like that. So if it is a systemic problem, but if there has been childhood abuse kind of things, then maybe in such cases we may have to get them to have some psychological help also, some professional help, because sometimes that can also stunt one. It's like like mentally challenged people cannot practice Krishna consciousness, and this is like some kind of borderline mental challenge only. So maybe through some either allopathic or ayurvedic kind of treatment, whatever they're comfortable with, to address their mental issues that needs to address, then slowly when those blockages are removed, maybe it might help them get over these issues like that.
Yeah, I agree with the solution. The solution is done, but my first question is, how do you identify them? How do you know that this? Because another thing is, I might also be committing serious Vaishnava aparadh by trying to, you know, rectify somebody or rectify the system or whatever. So how do I know for myself that this personality is Samshadnika? I mean, you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
Identifying that problem.
Mhm.
Once you spend time with somebody, you will know.
Mhm.
But to identify that, yes, this person is coming in the category of some Samshayatma. So how do you come to that conclusion?
I mean, it's not very difficult to, you can see actually, the way they speak, the way they approach, they practically doubt people, they doubt statements, they doubt conclusions, and practically, in one sense, there is, you spend little time with them, you come across them, you sort of lose your enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness. You also start sort of doubting. So whatever they say, oh, it's not like that, you know what, it doesn't work like that. So they only speak like this, but it does not really happen, they don't do anything, like that. They keep on sort of in one sense like cribbing. And so I mean, you must have seen such people. It's not like very difficult to identify. But if you have spent sufficient time with someone, it is easily possible to identify, at least some level of cynicism, because you can see, beyond what threshold is a person a cynical insider. and below which he may be like, he is a person having a few doubts. When does he become actually a cynical insider? I don't have any scientific definition for that, but in general, you can always see people who are like constantly, complaining, cribbing, either about the process itself or about people. So that probably could be very likely a case of being a cynical insider.
Right. So in one sense, though, it is always best if you feel that you are not strong enough to counter them or rectify them, better avoid their company.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, better avoid their company. That is better actually. But it should not happen that in a society everyone avoids them. So then it should not happen. It might set a wrong example also. At least we may not be the persons who are capable of helping them, but as a society, some system should be made to give them better experience and bring them back into the fold. So if everyone keeps avoiding them, thinking that we are not ready, we are not ready, we are not ready, then we might keep losing people that, and it will not set a very good example for and if a cynical insider gets a good help, then it might save 10 more potential cynical insiders actually, when they see that the system is coming together to help out a potential to help out a cynical insider. Maybe there are a few more potential cynical insiders in pipeline. When they see this, it might help them not become a cynical insider themselves. So yes, I agree that not everyone may be capable of addressing this issue personally. They may not be capable, but definitely, at least the society as a whole, at least the leaders as a whole, should come together and definitely should do something to help such people as much as possible. Even though, even in case that one person may not be helped, he may not come back properly, but at least seeing that many people are, at least a few people are trying to help them, we may save many potential cynical insiders actually.
Hare Krishna.
Is that relevant too?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there are some questions in the chat box. One devotee who chants Hare Krishna sincerely, but he has doubt on why ISKCON has name Pandarpur defies as Radha Pandarinath. How Radha can replace Rukmini? Although Radha is the source of Lakshmi Ganas and Gopi Ganas. Does this person fall in Ashraddha category? Well, I don't know. Because only because he has some problem. He has one problem with, why is this Radha Pandarinath? It should, with Vittal, there is always Rukmini only. So why is this Radha Pandarinath? So he has this one problem. That does not necessarily mean he is a cynical, no, he is an Ashraddha Dana. No. I mean, he probably just needs some clarification. He's seeking some clarification. And if someone has given reasonable clarification, probably he'll be satisfied. So if because you have revealed only this one aspect, this one doubt that he has, one doubt does not make one an Ashraddhadana or a Samshayat. One doubt, throughout our Krishna consciousness, we have had multiple doubts. So one doubt, a few doubts here and there, does not make one into a Samshayatma or a cynical person, like that. When it has become chronic, habitual, then you call such people as Samshayatma. So they don't just have doubts, but trustlessness has become their second nature. Such people are called as Samshayatma. So if someone has some questions, they are not necessarily Samshayatma. Like that. Then how can we help them if we are losing enthusiasm? I think I've already answered this question. So anyways, okay, so we will continue. So this is about, who gets knowledge and who does not get knowledge. So this Agnyascha, Ashraddhavanascha, Samshayatma Vinashyati. So these three categories of people who have faith issues. Either they don't have faith, don't have knowledge, or they have knowledge, no faith, or have knowledge and faith but struggling with faith. So all these three kinds of people will find it difficult to attain knowledge, because we are talking about how Nishkama Karma Yoga matures into knowledge. But just like for bhakti, faith is very critical. Similarly, for Nishkama Karma Yoga also faith is very critical. So when there is a problem with faith, then it can potentially lead to issues with perfecting that process of Nishkama Karma Yoga and eventually attaining knowledge, like that. So then I think we have just two more verses. Yeah, just two more verses. I think we can complete it today. We have another 15 minutes. Okay. So Yoga Sanyasta Karmanam Jnana Sanchinna Samshayam Atmavantam na Karmani Nanti Dhananjaya. It says actions do not bind. Karmani na nibadnanti Sanyasta Karmanam. So actions do not bind the person who has renounced all action. Yoga through Nishkama Karma Yoga. Yoga Sanyasta Karmanam. By practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga, if he has become qualified and given up his actions, then actions will not bind such a person. Sanchinna Samshayam, and who has cut all the doubts, because the Samshayatma, so who has destroyed all the doubts. He cannot remain a Samshayatma. One cannot remain a Samshayatma and attain perfection. One has to certainly destroy those doubts. Okay. So Jnana Sanchinna Samshayam, who has cut all the doubts through Jnana Yoga, and Atmavantam, and who has attained directly realization of the Atma. To such a person, actions do not bind such a person. So yoga means Nishkama Karma Yoga. Through yoga, Sanyasta Karmanam, he has reached the stage of giving up actions, which means he has come to the stage of Jnana. And through Jnana, Sanchinna Samshayam, he has destroyed all doubts. Okay. So therefore, through Jnana, he has become now Atmavantam, self-realized. Such a person, na karmani nibadnanti, actions do not bind such a person. O Dhananjaya Arjuna. That is the meaning of the verse. In such a state, a person will reach a state of no karma, naishkarmyam. Having renounced all actions by sannyas after performance of Nishkama Karma Yoga, and having eradicated all doubts through the practice of Jnana, actions do not bind that person who has attained the realization of the soul. So this is perfection of Nishkama Karma Yoga, which is sannyas and or Jnana Yoga, which eventually leads to self-realization. Okay, like that. Any quick discussion points, comments on this question, on this verse? Okay, so last verse of this chapter. Tasmad Ajnana Sambhutam Vritstam Jnanasinatmanah Chitvainam Samshayam Yogam Atishtottishta Bharata. Tasmad, therefore, Chitva Enam Samshayam, cutting all doubts. Kritstam Ajnana Sambhutam, which have arisen from ignorance. Therefore, cutting all doubts which have arisen from ignorance. How? Jnana Asina. Asina means through the sword. Through the sword of knowledge, Atmanaha. With the sword of knowledge, Yogamatishta, taking shelter of Nishkama Karma Yoga, Uttishta Bharata, please rise, O Bharata. This is a personal instruction to Arjuna. So he says, Tasmad, therefore, Arjuna, because now that I have explained to you everything, understanding the subject matter, Tasmad, Jnana Sambhutam. So, Chitva, you should cutting all the doubts, Enam Samshayam, cutting all these doubts, Kritstam Ajnana Sambhutam, which have arisen from the ignorance within the heart, Jnana Asina, with the sword of knowledge, and taking shelter of Nishkama Karma Yoga, please rise, O Bharata. That's what he's telling. Okay. So with the sword of knowledge, cut the doubts, and with your senses in Nishkama Karma Yoga, and rise. So this verse concludes the topic. Cutting the doubts situated in the heart, taking shelter of Nishkama Karma Yoga, rise up in order to fight the battle. So that's what is the personal instruction to Arjuna. Arjuna, practice Nishkama Karma Yoga. That's what Krishna is telling. So even though, again, if you see here, throughout the third chapter, Krishna described Nishkama Karma Yoga. Sorry, throughout the second chapter, Krishna described Nishkama Karma Yoga. Towards the later part. And towards the end, he spoke about Sthita Pragya and glorifying the path of Jnana. So Arjuna, in the beginning of third chapter, got confused. You are asking me to perform Nishkama Karma Yoga, and on the other hand, you are glorifying Jnana. So if Jnana is so glorious, then why not allow me to practice Jnana? Why you are insisting that I practice Karma? So the same way, now in the fourth chapter, Krishna has glorified Jnana in this section. In this last but one section, he has glorified Jnana. Nahi Jnanena sadrisham pavitram mita vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati. So nahi Jnanena sadrisham pavitram miha vidyate. Like that, in so many verses, he glorifies the path of Jnana or Jnana. But at the same time, towards this end, he says that Yogam Atishta Uttishta Bharata, he says. Take shelter of this Nishkama Karma Yoga and rise, O Arjuna. Like that he says. So, again, Arjuna, in the beginning of 5th chapter, will get confused. You have glorified Jnana and you are actually now talking about asking me to do karma. What exactly you want me to do? Why you are again confusing me? Like that Arjuna will ask in the beginning of the 5th chapter, which we will discuss next week. So he says, having spoken of various means of liberation, Jnana is praised in this chapter. But the means to Jnana is karma. So there is Sakama Karma Yoga, there is Nishkama Yoga, there is Jnana Yoga, then there is Ashtanga Yoga, and then there is liberation. Okay. So Sakama Karma Yoga for piety, pious life. Nishkama Karma Yoga for cleansing the heart. Jnana Yoga for self-realization. Ashtanga Yoga for Paramatma realization. And then it leads to liberation. Many times these two are clubbed together and mentioned as one. Okay. So whichever way you would like to take, it depends on the context. So, but the means of Jnana is karma, right? That has been pointed out in this chapter. Thus, the commentaries on the 4th chapter of the Gita for the pleasure of the devotees' minds have been completed, following after the Acharyas. That. Any discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share as had? Shyamlal Prabhu.
So Prabhuji,
Yes, Prabhu.
when we say that the doubts have to be cut by the sword of knowledge. But for a Samshyatmika person, a person who is doubtful, he will doubt the very person who is sharing the knowledge.
Okay, true. So here actually this is for a samshayatma. When if he has reached the stage of samshayatma, then already Bhagavad Gita has given the verdict that vinashyati. He will actually be destroyed. Destroyed here means he will not achieve the perfection of Nishkama Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, which is liberation. So here we are not talking about Samshayatma. If one has become a Samshayatma, then that case is very difficult. But before becoming Samshayatma, when they get doubts, so when someone gets doubts, he has not become a Samshayatma. When those doubts are not favorably cleared, then potentially over a period of time, he can become a Samshayatma. So therefore, what here Krishna is suggesting is that through the sword of knowledge, keep clearing the doubts as and when they come. So that is the recommendation here. So this is not a recommendation for a Samshayatma, because if one has already become a Samshayatma, then the verdict on him is, he says, Krishna says, Vinashyati. Very difficult.
Okay, right, right. Makes sense, Prabhuji. Very well.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anyone else has any discussion points, comments? Okay, so if there is no further discussion points, we will pause here and continue this discussion next week. Thank you all very much for your patient listening and your enthusiastic participation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.